Morning fam, Graham here from The Rendezvous, and we are jumping back into the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And I don't know what your translation says exactly, but there's this group of guys in here, and my Bible calls them magi, right? Kind of short for magicians. Maybe your translation calls them wise men. These guys from the east show up. We actually sing a Christmas song about them. You know, we three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we travel afar. That's these same guys. Like who are these wise men, magi, kings? Who are these people? A more literal translation of these guys are like royal astrologers. Like these guys are professional stargazers or interpreters that would be hired so that kings, queens, other rich people would know what to expect or what was going on. Kind of like they're reading their future. And these guys were taken really seriously, right? For us, this would be a joke today. But these guys were taken very seriously, as we can see in verse 2, where they show up to King Herod and they say, "Where is the one who was born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was alarmed. He's taking this very seriously. This was a big deal. He really believed these guys. So, here's what I think is crazy about this story is the Messiah, which means the anointed one, the Jewish guy who was supposed to come save all the Jews. And what are these guys doing, right? These guys aren't Jewish, right? They don't worship Yahweh, God. They don't worship the Jewish God, and they don't keep the 10 Commandments. Like, who are these guys to get this star and to be told about this, right? They don't follow the right religion. They probably don't have the right skin color, right? They don't do the right thing. So what is it that gives them the right for God to give them this little kind of gift and show up and be a part of this story? I mean, if anybody's supposed to get this part of the story, it should be people like me, right? I'm a pastor, okay? Right? Shouldn't God use the pastors, the religious leaders, the prophets, the stuff like that? I mean, in yesterday's video, we talked about the shepherds who were some of the lowest people in society, and they got to be a part of it. And it's like, what is going on here? A couple years ago, some of you guys went with me to New Orleans to do a missions trip. And in New Orleans, voodoo is a real thing. All right. It's kind of a joke for us, but in New Orleans, it's a real thing. It's a real religion that people really practice. Right. And this would be similar. It would be like if God was speaking through voodoo or tarot cards or a Ouija board or something like that. It's like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't how I would expect it to be. But God chooses people based on his own choosing. We talked about early this week that God is sovereign. He can do what he wants for the most part, right? He doesn't have to give us a reason. He doesn't have to fit into the mold that we think he should fit into. And when I look at this story and I think these are not the people I would have chose, these are not the people that should have been chosen, it also makes me wonder what other people in society do I kind of count out because they don't fit my mold. Okay, maybe for you are similar to me, and there's certain people that you think they don't measure up. They don't fit into my standards. They're not popular enough. They're not cool enough. They don't make enough money. They're not as good looking. They're not as good at sports, whatever it might be. We have said they don't fit the mold. They don't get to be a part of the story. They don't dress the right way. They don't have the right last name. They don't look right. They don't hang out with the right people, whatever it might be. And yet God used some of those people as leading roles in his birth story. Doesn't make sense to me. But that's what God chose to do. I think maybe in a story like this, God is saying, "Hey, Graham, hey, maybe I don't get to play by your rules. Maybe I don't have to play by your rules. Maybe I play by other rules." And guess what? It doesn't matter how they act. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter who they worship. I love them just the same, and they get the same part in my story as you do. Because we'll also see in tomorrow's video that God does use religious people as well. He does use the people that we would think he should use. But he doesn't say no to people like we do. So we'll check that out. Tomorrow is our last session. It's Christmas Eve. We're going to go back to the book of Luke, chapter 2, verses 22 through 35 for our last reading. That's Luke 2, 22 through 35. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.